Welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are live right here at the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios on this Tuesday, November 12th in Lubbock, Texas, and we are on the radio at 987radio.com. We're on the radio at 98.7 Walk by Faith, 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation, and we're streaming. So we're on Facebook. We're all over the world. We're all over the world right now from Lubbock, Texas, the mecca of health and wellness. So I hope you guys had a great day. I did. It's been really good. Hope you guys got to see the show last night. If you guys didn't catch that, you can go back with Taking Health to Church. We did some. We broke down Shema last night. So listening to the Lord. And we got into Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. So I wonder how that went for you today. Wonder how that went. Did you try it? You guys that listened to the show last night, did you try that? Did you think about it multiple days? Did you just write it on your heart today? Did you write it on your hand? Did you plaster it across your forehead? Did you put it all over your desk and on your dash and all those things? Did you just think about it multiple times today? And how did it work out for you? Did you think to yourself, man, you know what? I actually had a better day today. It's kind of like magic, It's like, wow, that book has some wisdom in it. I don't know how that worked, but it's kind of how it works for me. It's crazy how we forget. It's like, how do you forget that? How do you forget about living that way? Putting it all on you, just doing that. I don't know. I don't know how we forget it, but it sure is glad that we got it reminded to us. And I thought it was just great. I thought it's been 2 days now. You would think, golly, you haven't been doing that always. You just get busy with stuff, right? I mean, you just get busy living. You just get busy working. You get busy with your family. Of course, you go to church and you read your Bible and you say your prayers and you do all that stuff, but you don't just plaster it all over your heart every day. I know some of you do. I know some of you that are listening to this show, and some of y'all gals and guys and gals that are listening to the show, I know that you're that way, and it's obvious for the several of you that are that way. But I think all of us could probably take it to another level, and that's what the show was about last night. So hopefully, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it. You can go to the Facebook pages, either one, Walk by Faith Facebook page, or you can go to the Rock Health and Wellness Center. If you don't like Facebook, go to YouTube. We're at Health from the Rock. If you don't like YouTube and you boycott both of them, go check us out on Twitter, Jason Clemmons DC. You can check us out there. It should be there, and you can watch any of these shows. And I stream to all three of those just because I know that people have different preferences on what they like to do, but I always keep that X one on there because they pretty much let you say what you want to, and those other two will censor you in when you start to say stuff that gets serious, and so we've had a few of our episodes get, somebody turns us in for something, which I'm all right because I'm willing to talk to you guys about it, but just in case, it's on X too, so it's there, and we don't get censored on that one. But we're not talking about censored stuff. We're just talking about health and wellness. And that's what we do on this show. We talk about health and wellness from a subluxation standpoint. I am a wellness chiropractor in the state of Texas. I have a subluxation-based practice that focuses on functional neurology. That's what we do in our office. So my job is to detect and correct your subluxations. Where do you have interference in your nervous system? And then what can we do to correct that? And we look at physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress to see if we can address all the areas of physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. The old timers used to call it toxins, traumas, and autosuggestion. That was back in the day, 1895, when chiropractic was discovered by D.D. Palmer in Davenport, Iowa. And it's been the same story ever since. Pressure on the nervous system causes the body to break down. So my job is to see how good I can do that. And what was really funny, this morning I was on my way to get a cup of coffee. Leslie and I got up this morning and we came up here to the office and worked out. And then I went home, showered, got some breakfast. And then I was on my way to get a cup of coffee before I came up here to the office. And there were two different conversations that we had in our office, in the car going to get coffee. And it's one of the negative things about working with your husband, because especially when your husband's kind of a driver, just kind of it's on his mind. It's like we could be better. And we had two different circumstances that we could be better at. And I said, it kind of reminds me of going for it on 4th down and 1 from the goal line and calling a sorry play and getting stuffed. Trying to fake punt from your 20-something yard line and making it look ridiculous. And then getting tackled in the end zone and losing the fumble and losing the game. It kind of reminds me of that. It's like, I said to Leslie, I said, we should probably be a little bit more humble in our office, because if the whole world could see it, they might be criticizing the way that we're functioning. Maybe we're not quite as good as we think we are, and maybe we should just watch the game and enjoy the game and not be so critical of all the things that go wrong. Until maybe we should take that plank out of your own eye before you find the speck in your brother's eye, how that scripture goes. Yeah. So that's my job, right? That's my job, is to try to make sure that we are talking about subluxation-based stuff, physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. That's my job. Anything you hear on my show that's contradicting to that, you're missing it in your own brain, because that's not the way that I intend it. And my argument will always come back to the subluxation. What is causing the interference in your nervous system? And that's what we got to try to figure out. And if we can figure that out and we can address it, like one of the conversations I had today, I've got a lady, love her to death. She is such a sweet lady. I've been taking care of her for a long time. She had foot surgery, and on both feet, I think. And she was like, she was down for a long time, 9 weeks or something. She couldn't walk on her feet, long time. And then she got up to walking, and then she got a pain in her hip. And she works, and she needs to be able to walk and move to make some money. And she's not a wealthy lady, and so she needs some help, and she needs to be able to move. So it's important. Her body is important to her in order for her to survive and pay her bills and do all that stuff. Kind of like a lot of us, right? And somebody told her, somebody she knows told her she had bursitis in her hip. And she was like, that was the thing now. Now we have a diagnosis. Now we have an issue we could deal with. She's like, I got bursitis. Can you do anything about bursitis? And I'm like, well, I don't treat bursitis. That's not my deal. Well, then I don't need you then, because you don't treat bursitis. I'm like, I said, what is bursitis? And she said, I have no idea. That's just what they told me I had, and I just want a shot to get rid of it. Just give me a shot. I'm going to go. She went to the emergency room. She got some pills and a shot or something. I don't know. It's like, whatever. But I said, look, you have a bursa sac. A bursa sac is a little sac that's usually underneath the tendon, trying to keep that tendon from rubbing on a bone. I always imagine it if you're trying to tie something down, like if you got a strap or something going across your pickup truck, and you don't want the strap to rub against your pickup truck, you might put like a little towel or something underneath there so that it doesn't rub up against the paint. And that's what a bursa would be. So you got like a tendon that's connected to a bone, and then underneath that you have a little sac. It's full of fluid that kind of keeps that tendon from rubbing up against that bone. There's your bursa. And what is itis? It's gotten inflamed. It's inflamed, so you have bursitis. Bursitis is easy, right? It doesn't make any difference. Why do you have bursitis? That's the important part. Why is it inflamed? Because it's not functioning right. Why isn't it functioning right? That's the big question. That's the big question you got to answer. You got to try to figure out, okay, are my hips not functioning properly? Is my quad turned off? Is my hamstring not firing? Something going on with that foot still because we've lost biomechanics in the foot, the knee, the hip? Do we have something going on in my brain? What is going on that's causing my body to be torqued into a way that I'm now putting pressure on that, and that particular tendon is pressing against that bursa, and now it's inflamed, right? That's how you help bursitis. You don't just diagnose it and give them a shot. That is lazy doctoring right there. That is so lazy. It's like, and it doesn't help the patient. It's like, golly, give them a shot, and then now they got a bunch of chemicals in their body. So you want to know why? Okay, she said my pain, my hip hurts. What do we know about that? We know that if you say my hip hurts, then it's in your brain, right? If you say you hurt, if you're in pain, it's in your brain. There's your nervous system. Now chiropractic is part of the problem, is the solution. It's part of the solution. It might be part of the problem, but it's also part of the solution, right? Because now, can you do anything about that? Yes, we can. And we did work on it, and it was a little better when she walked out. So we worked on all the things that might have something to do with that hip. So that's what we do. The girl came in this afternoon with dizzy as heck. And she said she went to the doctor. The doctor told her she had a double ear infection and a sinus infection, which probably means she's full of antibiotics at this point, right? But she's got double ear infection and sinus infection, and every time she lays back, she gets super dizzy. Well, so when I laid her down on her back, boy, she got super dizzy, but she got way more dizzy than what I was expecting her to. That's not normal dizzy. Like she like reached up and grabbed me. She was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then she was like super dizzy, and I was like, "Hold up, just a second. That doesn't match the ear infection, sinus infection thing to me. Not in my clinical experience. Those two things were that dizziness was way out of control. That seemed more like vestibular stuff in the ear. And if we get to it, we'll move into that stuff later on in the show. But so we did the Epley's maneuver on her there in the office, which is a way of working on some. If there's some crystals in the ear, then that kind of helps those crystals get resettled where they're supposed to be, taking that pressure off that vestibular system. And when she got up from it, she was like, she turned her head in both directions, and she was like, "Wow, that's way better." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe you don't have a double ear infection. Maybe you don't have that sinus infection. And maybe all that has nothing." I said, "Have you ever had this dizziness before?" She said, "Yeah, it comes and goes sometimes." So she's like, I've had it before. Well, if you've had it before, and then now all of a sudden your ears are full of fluid, then in my way that I'm going to look at it, I'm going to say those two things probably aren't related to each other. There's a really good chance if you've had it before when you didn't have any pressure in your sinuses, that the reason that you're having it now may not have anything to do with the pressure in your sinuses. It might have a whole lot more to do with what's going on in that vestibular system. So we worked on it. But dizziness, yes, bam, there you go. Nervous system, vestibular system, interference in your nervous system, subluxation. Yes, chiropractic care is that's part of the deal there. Could be part of the solution again, right? So those little things that you might not understand or you might not know or whatever, those are just kind of what that thing is all. That's what it's all about. It's like, well, you chiropractors think you can treat everything. Nope, we don't treat anything but subluxation. That's the only thing that I treat. That's the only thing I ever treat with any patient ever. Whether you're brand new, 15-minute-old baby, or you're a 100-year-old person, it's the same thing. Where do you have interference in your nervous system? That's all. I don't care what you call it. The only reason that I care what you call it, if I cared what you called it, would be to narrow down kind of where you have interference. If they say, all right, well, I got bursitis in my hip. Okay, well, that kind of narrows it down. We don't have to do a full body scan on that. We can kind of start working on things that might, because most of the time you can get to it faster. Same thing with the dizziness. Well, I don't have to work on her ankle if she tells me that she's dizzy. I mean, I might start working on things that are more common to dizziness. You know what I mean? So that's where the diagnosis part comes in. So let's get on with the show. First of all, if you got any questions, send them to us. And Gary, if you're listening, I lost that what you sent me last night. Maybe when we see you again, maybe you can we can discuss that comment that you made in the chats. I tried to find it in YouTube. I tried to find it on Facebook. I don't know where it was exactly that you left it, and I couldn't find it last night. So that's why I didn't get back to you on that. But if you guys got something you want to say, you want to share with me, you can drop it in the chat, or you can send me a text, 806-794-0400, 806-794-0400. And I'd be glad to answer your text. I've got a couple of you guys that are driving out there, heading home from work, listening to the show. I appreciate you. I hope everything's going your way today. I hope this is helping you be healthier. Thanks for the text when you send them in, and I appreciate that. So if you guys got questions, comments, anything, feel free to send them to me. But I've kind of been avoiding this a little bit because just kind of because it's so popular, and it just seems like you're just jumping on the bandwagon, and it's like everybody's talking about it. But I got a text last night that was asking me about seed oils, and it's like, what's my stance on seed oils, and should we use vegetable oils and seed oils instead of animal fats? And would we be better off using animal fats, right? Well, let's start this conversation and step back just a little bit, okay? In 2009, I started really diving into nutrition, and I started really studying nutrition. And I feel pretty blessed to be in a wellness world with wellness people, we've been talking about this stuff for a long time, right? And I've mentioned this before. Whenever you start talking about nutrition, because it's so common to all the people on the planet, because if there's 8 billion people on the planet, 8 billion people have an opinion on what you should eat or what they should eat. Maybe not what you should eat, some of them do, but what they should eat. It's hard to tell. It's hard to get someone to eat a certain way because they have an opinion on it, right? There's things you like, there's things you don't like. There's things that you think are healthy. There's things that you don't think are healthy. There's things that you don't care about health at all, whatever. Like there's all kinds of things, right? So what I learned when I started studying nutrition was you got to be careful because you're going to get so many different opinions, and you're just going to get people riled up about stuff, and then it's going to be hard to communicate. It's going to be hard to teach because they're just going to be mad, right? I've had guys just fire me. I had a farmer, a rancher here in town that I showed Food Inc. one time to my patients, and he wrote me this big long letter and just fired me, told me how stupid I was and how ridiculous that was, and blah blah blah, and never seen him since. Just for straight up fired me, and I'm like, okay. So people get quite fussy about nutrition. People you step on their toes a little bit sometime, right? So, and the reason I say this, and I always liken it to like having the Baptists and the Methodists and the Presbyterians and the Catholics and all the people sitting around the table, right? You got all the different denominations sitting around the table, and then you want to talk about religion. Or you could say you got the Democrats and the Republicans sitting around the table and you're just going to start talking politics. It's kind of the same way, right? You get two people that see things completely opposite from one another, and they're polar opposites. And then you want to talk about something, they'll just get into a fight, right? They'll just get into an argument over it. So I try not to get into an argument over it, but I've also tried to narrow it down to the things that I think could possibly be the most important thing you can do. If you just would do this would be the most important thing. And so I've gone through all the different models of things. I've gone through all the different keto and the paleo and the Mediterranean and the non-toxic and the whatever, the organic and all the stuff, right? There's so many different hills that you can die on in nutrition. And what I've discovered going at it now for 15 years is that I personally think it's not the end all be all. This what I'm about to say is not the end all be all of all things. But I personally think there's two things. If I had to try to share as much information about nutrition as I could with the planet or just with all my patients, and I could try to get them to do two things. What two things would be the most important two things that they could do to control their health, right? But what if we could just narrow it down to be simple? What would be the two things that we would do to control our health? And I know you guys that's been listening to the show, you already know the answer to this question. But there's a reason that it's the answer to the question. It's not just, I didn't just pick two random things out and then just say, this is what I think is the most important thing, right? It's like, nope, based on all of the study that I've been doing for 15 years and all the research that I have read and all the things that I think I know about nutrition, here's the two that I think are the most important. Not, okay, they're not exclusive, so don't throw me under the rug because I'm saying this, but what is number one? Number one is control, and it's not necessarily in any order, your insulin. And maybe that's not the greatest way of saying it. Maybe I should work on that. Control your insulin. And what does it mean to control your insulin? It means to keep your blood sugar level. Keep your blood sugar level. Try to maintain a constant, normal blood sugar. Stay away from spikes so that you don't get insulin involved. Because I think when you get insulin involved, it starts to be detrimental to your overall health. And that's not what I want to talk about tonight, but that's number one, okay? And it's control your insulin. If you can control your insulin, you'll be way ahead of the game. You'll be way ahead of the game, right? How do you control your insulin? Fats, carbs that are complex, fats, protein, and complex carbohydrate. That's how you control your insulin, right? Okay, the number two that I think is super important, and I've actually learned a little bit today about it. I need to make it a little bit better, but balance your omega-6, omega-3 ratio. And that's the one that covers seed oil. So the question I got is, what do you think about seed oil? Well, What I think about seed oils, it's omega-6 fatty acids. It's bad for you. It's not good for you to to eat seed oils. It's not good for human beings. Not good for you. Not like I'm saying, well, I'm good and you're bad. No, not that. It's not good for us as human beings to consume these high level of omega-6 fatty acids. It's not a good idea. Omega-6 fatty acids, out of control, high levels of omega-6 fatty acids are not a good idea, according to all the research that I have, right? And I've been saying that since we started. I've been saying that since 2009. Why did I say that? What were some of the things that were convincing? Like when I first went to work for my brother-in-law, he would say things that I just didn't understand, like you bleed a tablespoon internally whenever you take an aspirin. And that was convincing to me. That was one of those sentences that I heard, and I was like, dude, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bleed inside my gut. Maybe I should stay away from aspirin, right? Those are convincing sentences. And there was a convincing sentence to me about omega-6 3. We got to take a break. I didn't mean to plan that out, but that worked out pretty good. But we got to take a break. And when we get back, I will explain to you the convincing sentence that got me on this track, or the whole scenario. And we'll get into some seed oils when we get back. So you guys stick around with us. We'll be right back. Like the girl asked me today, because I had two patients. I was working on the girl that had the vestibular system problem, the dizziness, and she was talking about the crystals in her ears and all that. Well, the other girl was in the other room, and she was listening to all that because it's kind of an open setting. And then she mentioned they talk to each other on the way out because they know each other, and then all of a sudden the girl in the room was talking to me about, well, her aunt had that problem, and they told her there wasn't anything you could do. You can't do anything about that, right? And I was like, well, yeah, I just did it. Like, she's just walked out of here better than she walked in, right? And it's like, what? And then we started talking about the last time we went to the doctor. How many times have we been to the doctor in the last 24 years? I think 3 or 4 times. How many times has Leslie been to the doctor in the last 3 or 4 years? I think maybe once or twice, maybe. How many times has Caitlin been to? She'll be 24 on Tuesday. How many times has she been to the doctor in the last 24 years? Twice. 23 years. Her 1-year well check, she went to the doctor. She went once when she was a senior in high school for some eczema on her foot. Like, that's the only 2 times she'd been there. And so the girl asked me, well, how did you learn that? Like, what caused you to know that? Like, is that the way you grew up? And I was like, absolutely not. It wasn't anything like I grew up. Like, I was just like every other person growing up, all the way up until I was 29 years old. I was just like every person. All this stuff that I talk about on this show was completely foreign to me up until the age of 29. Yeah. When I was 29 years old, I went to work for my brother-in-law, and he started saying crazy sentences, and I started listening to him, and those sentences, like, there's 25 kids in a class, and flu comes through, and 15 kids get the flu. How come the other 10 kids didn't get the flu? I was like, well, I don't know. I never thought about that before. I never thought about that. And then, so that was in March of 2000. So it's been over 24 years of me having these sentences, right? And so now you're listening to them, and for the first time, some of you are way advanced. Hang on, let me get us back on. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. And hang on, I was talking to the social media people. Some of you guys are advanced and some of you know it, but some of you are hearing it for the first times, and sometimes you need to hear it over and over, right? Okay, you guys we're all back together. We're on social media. We're on the radio. We're talking about balancing your omega 6-3 ratio. One of the most impactful stories about balancing your 6-3 ratio was what Dan Murphy taught me in 2009. And I've mentioned it to you with you guys before. And he talked to me. He told us about him being a twin. He's a twin, an identical twin. And both he and his identical twin brother have polycystic kidney disease. So they get these cysts on their kidneys, all over their kidneys. Polycystic kidney disease. And so Dan is studying omega 6s and omega 3s. And he's convinced that the ratio is wrong, that he's over sixed himself. He's got too many omega 6s. His ratio is out of control. And so Dan talked about that, and he was like, I decided that we would start taking more fish oil. So we went to 3,000 milligrams, and then we went up. We went to 6,000 milligrams, and then we went up. We went to 9,000 milligrams. And when you get to 9,000 milligrams and you're taking that much fish oil, you got to start taking it in a liquid. You got to take it in a liquid because, I mean, you don't have to, but it gets to be a lot of pills when you get up to that level, right? Well, so he got to 9,000 milligrams of fish oil, and then nothing happened. He still had polycystic kidney disease. And so he's like, all right, let's go to 12,000. And his brother said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to 12,000. So he stopped at 9,000 milligrams. And Dan went to 12,000. And then he went to 15,000. And then he went to 18,000 milligrams of omega 3s per day. And his polycystic kidney disease went away. Now, me personally, it makes me intrigued about that. When I hear that story, first of all, you got to ask yourself, do you even trust Dan? Like, is he full of crap, or does he have some sort of trustworthiness? Well, Dan's got some trustworthiness. He's been in the public realm for 40 years. He puts all his stuff out there. He gives you all of the data. I get a notebook this thick when I go see Dan. This is my Dan notebook. I get a notebook. This is one seminar. Like, this is one seminar full of this. It's I don't know, 1.5 inches probably thick. It's in a 2-inch binder. And it's like, so I feel pretty confident that Dan's telling me the truth. I don't think he would just lie and make that up. So what happened? If that story is real and that story is true, what happened? How did that work? What's the mechanism behind it? What is going on that makes that work like that? What is physiologically happening inside the body that's causing that to change like that? And so that was like a major like pivotal moment. What do they say? It's like a pivotal moment. It's where you actually you turn and change directions, right? You pivot. That was a pivotal moment for me because I was like, whoa, hold on a second. Fish oil did that? Well, fish oil balanced the ratio. It got the 6s and the 3s under control. Okay? And that was my kickoff study to omega 6-3 ratio. And if I was to go through, and I don't even know if I could do this or not. It would probably take me a minute, but because I've got my folder, all my stuff with Dan, and if I was just to come into the folder and search omega 3s, yeah, if I was to search omega 3s, And I haven't gone through all of them right here, but let me see if I could share this with you. All right, this is the top, and some of these may overlap, and I know you guys on the radio can't see this, but all I'm doing is I'm just showing, like, I'm showing all of the research that I have and of and all the information that I have about omega sixes and omega threes. Like I know you guys on social media can see that right there, but I could just pick. I could just I could pick any of these. There's one right here: omega three fatty acids, and anti-inflammatory, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for disc pain. Prenatal omega three fatty acids. Sensory and autonomic innervation of the cervical disc is going to have something with omega threes. The emerging role of omega three fatty acids in psychiatry. Consumption of fish and the omega three fatty acids risk of Alzheimer's disease. Right? Like there's so much research out there that, and it's not new stuff. It's not. It's this stuff Dan taught me in 2009, and it's not new stuff. These guys that have come on now, they've come on and they've just like overrun us with this stuff. You know, there's so much social media, it just makes it all sound like it's new stuff, right? The seed oil thing is one of those things to me. It is such a new thing, and I probably should just be a little more humble and shut up about it, but and just teach it. But it's just one of those things that fit. It's a piece of the omega 6-3 ratio. That's what seed oils are, because they're all omega 6s. That's what sunflower and safflower and corn oil and all those things, those are soybean oil. Those are all omega 6s. And when you eat omega 6s, you get sick. Right? We've talked about this lots of times. Right? We know that this is true. When you eat your omega 6s, you get sick. There is lots of research about it, and there's omega 6s is linoleic acid. Okay, it doesn't matter what it's called, but that's what it's called, linoleic acid. And then omega 3s are alpha linolenic acid. It's a different molecule. It's a different molecule. And what we want is we want a 3-to-1 or less, and we really want a 1-to-1 or less. So it's like the average American person is 25-to-1. So a 25-to-1 person, and it says, how are you going to get that down? How do you get, what do I do if you have 6s and 3s and they're out of balance? Whoops, let's see. 6s and 3s, right? They're out of balance. I grew up in Roswell. I went to Roswell High. I went to Mesa Middle School, right? I went to Eastern New Mexico for a year, graduated from Texas Tech, attended New Mexico State, came back and got a master's degree from Texas Tech, got a doctorate from Parker College, whatever. I've gotten really educated, but here's what I think. Here's what I learned. If this is too high, your omega-6 is too high, eat less of them. And if your omega-3s are too low, eat more of them. Now, I know that's profound teaching on a Tuesday night, right? Because you're thinking, wow, that was that was amazing, Dr. Clemmons. That was genius of you. Yes, if your 6s are too high, bring them down by eating less of them. And if your 3s are too low, bring them up by eating more of them. And if you get them balanced, maybe you'll be like Dr. Murphy and your polycystic kidney disease will go away. Or maybe your Alzheimer's disease, or maybe your cancer, or maybe your diabetes, or maybe your skin condition, or maybe your arthritis, whatever your thing is that might be caused from an excess amount of omega-6s in the diet. okay? Because we really want them. Because when we eat them, corn, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, peanuts, soy, canola, all of those things that are high, those are seed oils. Like, that's what they're talking about. Sunflower and corn oil and canola and soy and soybean oil, all those things are seed oils. And you, man, there is one of the um, uh, best. I'll show it to you in just a second. Uh, One of the best videos that I've ever seen explaining it and explaining the relationship of sickness to the seed oils. And I'll show it to you here in just a second. But this, when you eat those sixes, your body. We did this just the other night, right? You're gonna get problems when you eat your sixes. You're gonna get problems. You're gonna get a passage of the linoleic acid through multiple steps that's going to end up with inflammation. That's the problem. You're going to end up with inflammation. And then you're also going to end up with free radicals. And it's right here. It's on the list here. The number 2 cause of free radicals. So now we get oxidative stress. And they get oxidative stress. That's a problem. And that causes the cell walls to have a problem when you have too many omega-6s in the cell wall. Okay, if you're high in omega-6 fatty acid, you're going to end up with inflammation, and you're going to end up with degenerative joint problems, scar tissue, pain, increased amounts of free radicals, immune system dysfunction, and heart disease. Those are just some of the things that will happen. And you're saying, Jason, what are you saying? That my cardiovascular disease might be caused from my increased amount of seed oils? Yes, that's what I'm saying. You're saying that my degenerative joint disease, my knee pain, what do I say to you when you tell me that your knee hurts? What's the first thing that I ask you? Are you taking your fish oil? Why? Because the fish oil balances it. Your fish oil, your alpha linolenic acid, green leafy vegetables, flax, hemp, walnuts, fish, those things that are high in omega-3s that bring the balance of 6s and 3s back into normal human physiology, that's what fish oil does for you. The EPA, the DHA, the EPA is the anti-inflammatory part, the DHA is the brain part. And it's super important. We want it in the 2-to-1 ratio, and because of this, because EPA inhibits arachidonic acid from moving through the pathway, the balancing of it. Now, the one thing that I actually learned today that I probably should teach more is, and it came from, I'll show it to you before the night's over, but it came from Dr. and I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It looks like Nobby, and that's probably what I'm going to go with. Dr. Chris Nobby, Knobbe, Dr. Chris, Chris Knobbe, and I'll show you where you can go to YouTube. If I knew how to put links below, I would do that. Maybe I could figure that out. And this is it's www.lowcarbdownunder.com.australia, which is AU. And this is a seminar that they had down there, and there's all kinds of information that comes from that. But Dr. Chris Nobbe, are vegetable oils the primary driver of obesity, diabetes, and chronic disease? And he gives one of the best. He is a researcher. He's a physician, researcher, ophthalmologist, public health advocate, and associate clinical professor emeritus, formerly of the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. He is known primarily for his research in publications and presentations connecting westernized diets and highly polyunsaturated vegetable oils to all kinds of disease processes like coronary artery disease, hypertension, stroke, cancer, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune disease, and age-related macular degeneration. He's tied all that into vegetable oils, and when you listen to his that speech on YouTube, that lecture, and it's only about 30 minutes long. And when you listen to it, then what you will see is not just the balancing, because he doesn't really talk so much about the omega-3s. He just talks about the omega-6s. And he goes through multiple studies of people around the world, and he says, look, the 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 people, the societies that eat the lowest level of vegetable oils are the societies who have the least amount of disease. He does a great job tying it in there. So it's not just the idea that you take your fish oil, but it's also the idea of trying to limit those sixes. And I think maybe I spend too much energy talking about the concept of taking the fish oil, and maybe I don't spend enough energy talking about the concept of bringing the sixes down. Like when people say peanut butter, I'm like, no, peanut butter is not good for you. I'm not saying that there's not some nutritional value in peanut butter. I'm saying it's high in omega-6s. That's all I'm saying. I'm not anti-peanut butter. I love peanut butter. It's not the point whether I love it or not. The point is it high in omega-6s? Yes, peanuts are high in omega-6s. Okay? Is it what else? The soybean. We got guys out here that grow soybeans. What are you going to do with soybeans? What are we going to do with them? We're going to make oils out of them. We're going to feed them to our cattle in feedlots. And what are we going to do? We're going to create inflammation. And when you say, well, what is the soybean oil? We'll come back to this diagram in a minute if we need to, but where do you get soybean oil? Well, look at your mayonnaise. What's the first ingredient in mayonnaise? Soybean oil. Right? So you go get you a hamburger. Think about this. You go get a hamburger and French fries at your local diner, your local stop, your fast food joint. You're going to get a hamburger and French fries, right? You're probably going to get a piece of meat that came from a cow that came from a feedlot, right? And that cow is going to get fed corn, cottonseed, and soy in the feedlot to make them fat and inflamed so they can sell them for more. So you automatically got an increased amount of arachidonic acid that's right off the bat with the piece of meat that's coming along there. And then you might put bacon on top of it, and then there's some more of it, right? So you're not. It's not a free range pig or a free range chicken or a grass fed animal. It's probably an omega-6 fed animal. And then what are you going to put on top of it? You're going to put your mayonnaise on there. Now, is there a difference between mayonnaise and mustard? And the answer to that question is yes. There's a difference between mayonnaise and mustard. Why? Because mayonnaise is omega-6 heavy and mustard is not. That's the difference to me. Mayonnaise may even have some more sugar in it. I haven't even looked at that to see what the sugar content is. But what is the mayonnaise? It's the soybean oil, right? What's the soybean oil? It's omega-6. What's going to happen with that? It's going to cause all these diseases, right? Or you might say, let's look at something else. What if it's my salad dressing? My favorite salad dressing growing up was Kraft French salad dressing. That was my favorite salad dressing. I wonder why it was my favorite salad dressing. Here we go. Look at the ingredients. Soybean oil and high fructose corn syrup are the very first two ingredients of it. Soybean oil and high fructose corn syrup. Well, there you go again. Soybean oil is an omega-6. So I'm getting my omega-6s again from that. Your vegetable oil, your corn oil. But let's go back to our hamburger and fries. What are they going to cook those fries in? They're going to cook those fries in some sort of corn oil, right? Some vegetable oil. They're going to drop it in there. They're going to add heat, light, and oxygen. And anytime you add heat, light, and oxygen to something, you make it you get all kinds of trans fats in that, which is not good. But you're getting more corn oil, or you're getting more vegetable oil, and that's increasing the amount of omega-6s. And what happens is this same thing I just showed you last week. Is we get a society that's full of omega-6s. I just showed you guys this last week. I'm just bringing it up again because I was asked last night, what do you think of seed oils? And I'm like, I'm anti-seed oils. I've always been anti-seed oils, but I haven't done a very good job of explaining why I'm anti-seed oils. But look, here's 21 people that we looked at last week, their omega-6-3 ratio, their arachidonic to EPA ratio, right? Look at it. Arachidonic to EPA ratio, 1.8 and 2.7. I had 2 people that were below 3 out of all of this group. So we had the ranges between 1.8 and 60.8 in this group of people. And you're like, wait, what does that mean? You lose me when you talk about this sometimes. Okay, let me slow down and let me tie this together so that we really understand what this means. The question is, what's my opinion on seed oils? My opinion on seed oils is they're bad for you, and it's been that way since 2009. Why? Because they're high in omega-6 fatty acids. What do omega-6 fatty acids do to you? They cause inflammation. They cause free radicals. They cause degenerative joint disease. They cause scar tissue. They cause immune system dysfunction. It's not good for you, right? Where do you get omega-6s? By eating them. By eating constant levels of omega-6, constantly eating them. What will it do? It will break your body down, right? And if I was to take, and these are wellness people in my office too, so it's not a random group off the street. These are just people that came into my office, and we tested their 6-3 ratio, and what did we get? We got omega-6-3 ratio right here, and we got arachidonic acid to EPA ratio, and that we only had 2 out of 21 people, but we've got all these people that are over 10, and we've got these people over 20, and then 30, and then 60. This person at 60 doesn't know the detrimental effects. They don't have any idea how bad they are. You remember when COVID hit and people were dying, and people were saying that it's like healthy people are dying from this? You remember that? Remember that whole thing? Healthy people are dying from COVID. No, they're not. Healthy people don't die. Unless you run over them with a truck, shoot them with a gun, they fall off a mountain. That's how they die. Healthy people don't die from viruses. The viruses got a hold of a person that was walking around with a 60-1 arachidonic acid to EPA ratio. Then they died, and it appeared that they were healthy because we have this crazy definition in the world that we live in that if you're asymptomatic, you're healthy, and if you're symptomatic, you're sick. That's what we think. We are so far off with that. Being asymptomatic and having a 60-1 ratio is a ticking time bomb. That's a ticking time bomb when it comes to your health and your ratios, right? So seed oils is just a piece of it. It's not that exciting. It's not that sexy to me. Seed oils aren't that sexy to me because it's like, no, they're omega-6s. Of course I don't like them. Never have liked them. But I get it because of the popularity of Instagram and all these guys, and a lot of medical doctors are coming to the party, and then that gets people excited. The Means brother and sister, and they've gotten super popular all of a sudden. It's just like they've just come to the party, right? They're talking about stuff, and that's good. It's good, and RFK is going to help us out, and that's good. I think that it's like, hey, look, The more people we can get to the party, the more people we can talk about health, the more we're going to get more people healthy, right? This is the description right here. If you guys are interested in it, here is if you guys on the radio, you can go to YouTube. You can search Dr. Chris, Knobbe, and are vegetable oils the primary driver of obesity, diabetes, and chronic disease? And you can listen to this. It's about, 39 minutes or something like that. And you can find out information about seed oils. And he does a fabulous job. That's why I put it up here, because he does a fabulous job. You would really, really enjoy that if you were to watch it, I think. Or you would at least learn a lot if you were to watch it. Hey, thanks for everything. I appreciate you guys, and I hope that was helpful tonight. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 6 with Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will